Hello. So, Bree here, and I am back in the garden. I just realized why I don't ever have my face on camera. And when I'm recording, my camera does not flip around to go to a different angle. So, yeah, but hi from me. I'm back here, of course, holding the phone. I need a tripod. I need a selfie stick. This is obvious. I don't have one just yet. But the more important thing, and that's about the garden, right? So we all know small yard, big garden, right? That's what I do. And I am all about maximizing all the space I possibly can to grow things. And that's what I'm going to talk about, because you want to be careful when you have a very small yard. What you plant, right, is going to take up a certain amount of space. And if you don't plan accordingly, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Okay, so let's talk about this. We're going to talk about creating vertical areas of space and why. Okay, and some things that I did today in the garden. I'm moving things around. I'm out here working. I have my gloves on. Of course, it's morning. I like to work out in the morning before it gets too hot. So yesterday, day before, I moved this raised bed over here. We put in a new fence line. And I was talking to my honey about the cucumbers. And I hadn't quite figured out where the heck I was going to put my cucumbers this year. They need a fence. They need some kind of vertical trellis to get them going up so that you could have good, healthy cucumbers with a lot of airflow. But this bed is now over here, and so I can't use this wall space, which was blank. I had a bench here. There's asparagus in here. There's actually some onions in there, and nasturtium I did put in there just to keep some of the pests away. Now we know with the tomatoes, right, I've always done vertical. The more space you give them, the taller they're going to go. So you got to think tomatoes are going to take a lot of space unless you have determinate variety, which means they put a set amount. They only grow a certain length. I have stuff in my hair. I was underneath that peach tree. So they're going to go a certain height if you only have determinate. But when I prefer indeterminates, I prefer the height. I prefer mass quantities of tomatoes. If you have a patio garden, you only want a few tomatoes. Look for a determinate variety. They're not going to get out of hand, okay? But I'm moving things around still. The garden is not quite set where I want it just yet. I'm going to come back here. You can see the potatoes are doing so well. Okay, so we're going to take a bigger, longer look at the yard and really look at this. I have space for my tomatoes. I have space back here for grapevines, vining. In fact, that's what I was doing. I was lifting these vines off the ground, and I said to myself, I need to do a video on going vertical, right? Coming up off the ground. This bed is actually planted vertically in mind. There's things that are growing back here that are taller. One, the artichoke. I have gladiolas. I have flowers. I wanted to bring some different type of flowers back in here. So I have things that are going to be going vertical back here, and they're going to be coming up. So it's going to create a tier. And then as lettuce dies out, I'll be putting things in there. And so really this bed, I would like this bed to become like a designated lettuce perennial type thing. The Swiss chard is one of those things. Swiss chard will come back. So I have this bed that's designated for that. This year I designated because you want to move your zucchini around. Okay, squash bugs, oh, they're no joke. You can move them around. You can plant in a way that succession planting, where you plant early, you plant mid, and you plant so that way you have zucchini all season. Squash bugs come and go. They say after July, but let me tell you, last year, such a lie, because they just stayed all season. So you really have to be diligent on squash bugs. So if you're going to plant zucchini, know that you're going to do a lot of work. Okay, so if you want a low maintenance garden, don't put zucchini in it. But if you're okay with a high maintenance garden, you have the time, put your zucchini. Zucchini is a great produce to be taking into your house and eating. It's so good for you. So that bed is now designated zucchini. I only have 4 plants in there, and honestly, if they decide that they're going to grow a certain way, I might have to take 2 of them out because they get really big. But if one dominates the other, the ones that are smaller will get taken out. I just want to make sure. There is a lot of root space in that box. I would like them to flourish on both sides of the box, which is why I have them doubled up like this. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm trying it. Another thing I did see, and I was thinking about this, there is a video out about a woman who plants her garden in stones, in pavers. She plants them in the middle in the cracks. And, squash bugs kind of grow, lay their eggs, and they lay their eggs under the leaves, but they go dormant in all that debris in the soil. And I just kind of wonder if bricks laid on top would benefit not having so many squash bugs. Just a thought. I don't know. Maybe. I'm going to try it, possibly. If I get more bricks, I'm going to bring them in. Which brings me to the fact that I have that fence. See, there's Corsair sitting over there by that fence. And I was going to put the zucchini there, or the cucumber there. And then I kind of had a little epiphany about growing companions, things like that. So, vertical. We need a vertical space in order to grow cucumbers. Well, this bed, right now I have some celery coming in. Experiment. I don't know how well that's going to do. We'll see. They're kind of a cooler weather plant. But this is usually my eggplant bed. So what I usually do is I put peas to start. Then I'll come back in with green beans and pole beans. Okay. Be careful when you buy. Either if you're wanting something to climb because you want to maximize space, you want to look for pole beans. If you want the bushy variety, okay, know that that bush is going to take up space. And if you're trying to grow a lot of things in one small space, bush beans might not work for you because they're going to get all bushy and you have no room to grow anything else. So right now I have peas, and those are, they start go into seed pretty quickly as soon as the weather gets hot. But that's when you're going to start putting in your green beans, right? Your pole beans. So my pole beans are going to go up this fence, okay? And that's going to be perfect for them. What I am going to do, backtrack. This was just designed in my brain yesterday, and I'm still flawed in it. But, okay, let me backtrack. So pole beans do need a vertical space. This is not the space for the pole beans. This is the space for the pole beans, and I'm actually going to come in, clean out this grass right here. I'm going to use some pavers and create a little bed right here where I'm going to put the pole beans, and they're going to go up this trellis. Meanwhile, on the other side of this trellis, I already have gourds planted, birdhouse gourds, and I'm going to let them take over this side. My hope is, 1, because the root structure is here for the gourds, 2, the green beans are here. The thing I didn't want to do is put cucumbers here growing towards the gourds, because then what happens is my cucumbers will turn into gourds. I am hoping that I have enough space here for the cucumbers, and here is another great thing. Cucumbers can be planted with eggplants. They require the same nutritional value in the soil. So when I put my eggplants in this bed, they should go well together. So the cucumbers are going to go up this trellis. Hopefully they're going to be far enough from the bottleneck gourds. And I don't ever usually save the seeds from the cucumbers. I wouldn't want to save the seeds from the cucumbers in case they cross-pollinate with the gourd, because then next season if I plant cucumber seeds, that's not going to work so well. I won't get cucumbers. So, another thought on vertical, because I do have, use what you have, or find recycled material. I have a lot of these fence post things, the T-posts. They're super cheap. They're like $2 a post or something like that. Some of them can be a little bit more. I think these are, the thicker ones are $4, but these thin ones, super cheap. And actually, oh, here they are, super cheap. And walk this way. So these are the really, really thin fence posts, the T-posts. And look at what I've done. I've placed this metal that I had left over from when I first did my tomatoes. Is it perfect? No. Does it need to be? No. My honeysuckle was coming out over here. And I need a lot of foot room when I'm moving around. I'm kind of gravity challenged. I like to find the floor rather quickly. So what was happening is I had a lot of sunflowers one through here. The honeysuckle was coming up over the ground here. Even the grapevine was coming this way. I do need to do some leaning of the peach tree this way, which is fine. I'm going to create a device that will push that main stalk that way. But meanwhile, I needed something to get these honeysuckle off the ground, the grape off the ground, and then I have another grape towards the back there. So if you can see that mesh back there, I like my fingers here on the screen. So that mesh back there is holding another grapevine. That grapevine is doing well, even though it's under the shade of the peach tree. It gets really hot here. Some things don't mind shade. So this grapevine is also, it's actually producing grapes this year. This is a 3-year grape. So we'll have to see what happens there. I would like to get another panel like this beside that grape, but I kind of want to do something a little artsy on it, I'm not gonna lie, and have it come this way, meanwhile pushing the peach tree that way. So options, right? I do have my rose bush here. I'm bringing some rocks. I really love the mountains. I like the earthy feel. I like the organic. I don't like funny enough, I have a lot of raised beds that are square. Serves a purpose. I like wood. I'm okay with the raised beds for that purpose. If I could, I'd have it all rocky and mountainy looking. But at the same time, if I sell this house, these are easy to get rid of. Okay, so rocks, not so much. Not everybody might want a rocky garden. So the bench, these serve a purpose. They're great and they can be moved and thrown away and no big deal. This was actually made, and notice how I've come up. I'm getting old. I don't want to bend over. I came up this way. This was made out of picket fence and 2x4s. So picket fence panels and 2x4s. You do have to be careful. They are pretty flimsy, so you have to have support, which is what that is. Otherwise, will pop right open. Let's see. You cannot use these picket boards as a base. They don't work. They're not strong enough. I tried it, and that's how this is on the ground. It was higher. It was elevated to I don't know, here. I had to cut the legs off, put it on the ground. Everything was fine, but all the soil had fallen out. I had to shovel twice, basically, to put the soil back in. So be mindful of the tools that you use to design what you're doing. You don't want to do extra work. That was extra work when I did that. So, but grapevine, see back here. Peach tree will move, more sunlight in here. I'm bringing some of the rocks. I've had this organic wavy flow, and I want to open things up a little bit more back here. Also, I'm creating more natural spaces for things like strawberries. So I'm going to be putting soil into this little section, and I'm going to put strawberries in there. And I'm going to do a few other little spots where I'm going to put strawberries just like that. So strawberries do like sun. They don't like soil. They don't like to be on the dirt. They will rot your berries. Pests get to them. So think high and low. Think of your growing space in tiers, because that will maximize your space. It will dramatically. If you think that you can come up into the sky with certain things like pole beans versus bush beans, and you have very little space, do it, because those pole beans are going to grow to the back. You can have something planted in the front and they're not going to take up that much room. Be mindful of how tall things grow. Gladiolas are going to come to hopefully about right here if they do produce, if they come up. And then, keep it accordingly. I have nasturtium planted. They kind of hang. They don't really vine, but they do hang. And so I have them planted on the edges of the bed so they can hang over and keep pests out of the bed. So, space is very key, importance. These bees balm. So this is bees balm, and then I have snapdragons in the front. The bees balm get pretty tall, and they send out these beautiful red to pink to purple. The variety is different each time, but of what you buy, not of what you plant. What I plant, I think I planted red ones here. I have pink ones that grow back there. I haven't seen them starting to come out. That's okay. The garden changes almost every year. In New Mexico, things that say perennial don't always mean perennial because they can't withstand the heat. So the goji berry, I want to get some more of these in. I have to go to a certain nursery for that, or even maybe ask my cousin if he has more of those growing that I can maybe buy from him, because I love this. I love the goji berry. So vertical. Cattle panel, super cheap, okay? Super cheap. Got it from Tractor Supply. Yes, you kind of need a pickup or some kind of SUV. They will bend, that you can fold them over, up and over. And come this way. And you can grow a lot of things up a cattle panel. So, for example, the pole beans are going to come up this cattle panel and grow up and over. I did have the Gajari. The Gajari was great. It only went about halfway, but it created a nice little archway. It creates elements of beauty in the garden. Cattle panels also give you a fence line if you need one. You can also put them sideways. Some people grow tomatoes along the cattle panels, so you can put them sideways so that they're kind of horizontal, and create the horizontal lines going across, and you put the tomatoes on that. But here's the thing about that. They're not tall enough sideways. They're not if you have indeterminates and you really want them to grow. Look at this. These poles are 8 feet high, and my tomatoes reached the top of them. So tomatoes, if you give them space, they will grow. I can't wait to show you more as the garden gets going, but definitely think, like, even these little poles are great for things to pop them up. I don't have anything in this bed this season other than flowers, so this doesn't need to be there, but I can use it somewhere else. So things that might need extra support. Sometimes peppers need extra support. If you give that to them, give them little poles to lean on, and they will reward you. They will come up and grow. These I'm letting go to seed. Hopefully maybe at the end of summer I'll have some onions. I don't know. But they're going to go to seed. The cold snap that came through really destroyed their momentum, and it caused them to seed up. That's what will do it. If the temperature drops, if you're growing onions and you have tons of onions and they're going great, and all of a sudden you get a cold snaps coming, cover them up, because they will go to seed instead of producing you a bulb. You could still eat them at this stage, pull them up, just cook them right away, but you wouldn't be able to store them. And so it is Black Widow season also. I'm going through and messing up these Black Widow webs back here. So be mindful of that. Be careful in the garden. I have some small little garlic bulbs back there that don't really matter because they're not going to do much, and that's okay. But don't stick your hands in spider webs, especially when you're planting. That's kind of crazy. You don't want to get bit by one of those. So over here taking out their spider webs, because no black widows, no. In fact, I had an encounter of one over there when I was moving rocks. So just be careful this black widow season. So I hope that gives you some ideas on how to plant certain things. and maximize your space vertically. This area has a lot of shade to it, but that ground is really rich. So I'm mindful of what can go back there. The echinacea doesn't seem to mind. The fennel doesn't seem to mind. The trees don't seem to mind all that much. Once they get a certain height, they're okay. They can still get sunlight. Potatoes don't seem to mind. Okay. Cool weather crops definitely don't mind that area that doesn't get a lot of sunlight. But if you need full sun, don't be afraid to bring things out into the center. If you need heat, don't be afraid to use what you have. I have this house. The brick radiates heat, and it helps with the peppers and the okra for sure. So, yeah, I think that is it. But definitely think about your growing space. Think about how you can grow up. If you want grapevines, but you don't have a place specifically where you could grow a grapevine, know that they trellis and that you can use simple little rabbit cage wiring or things like that, or chicken wire, and put it on T-post. Chicken wire is usually not expensive. Chicken wire I do not recommend for tomatoes. It's not strong enough. But like for grapes or things or vines, you can definitely use the T-post, put the fencing in. It's cheap enough, and then have them growing in that space. So much love to everybody. Happy gardening, and I hope this season is off to a beautiful start for you. Much love. Bye.